What's part two of this maltodextrin dangers conclusion all about? Well, I'm going to cover that shortly, so stay tuned and don't go anywhere. Hey, this is Lance McGowan, the Tropical Smoothie Guy, and we're going to cover part two of the maltodextrin dangers conclusion and really wrap things up here in the next section.
Hey, this is Lance McGowan, the Tropical Smoothie Guy, and today we're going to talk about part two of the conclusion. Alright, so we don't know the long term effects of maltodextrin derived from GMO corn, since there hasn't been any long term independent meta studies done on the safety of maltodextrin yet. When in doubt, I just go without. And the main reason why I would go without maltodextrin is for the pictures that you see here. So, almost all the maltodextrin in the US is derived from corn, and over 90% of corn in the US is genetically modified. And the reason why the corn is genetically modified is to withstand these couple things here. Number one is the herbicides, so weed resistance. So when the crops are sprayed with herbicide, it doesn't kill the corn, but it kills the weeds, which actually the weeds can develop a resistance or tolerance to the herbicide, and then that's a whole other issue, which questions the effectiveness of the herbicides over time, which actually diminishes their quality and ability to provide the value that they say it is. That's a whole other issue. And then the other issue with the corn is that it becomes pesticide producing, especially like Bt toxin. And so that's a registered pesticide according to the EPA. So pesticides, who would drink, even just a half an ounce of this stuff? Nobody. I mean, it's toxic. But yet we put minute quantities because of the residue in our corn, which is derived to maltodextrin. So I would avoid maltodextrin just because it's derived from GMO corn, and GMO corn is sprayed with toxic chemicals. That's kind of my point there. All right. What's even worse is that maltodextrin is hard to avoid since it's in almost everything. So you look on store shelves, especially like in the middle of grocery stores where there's all the processed foods. I mean, hello, it's going to be there in abundance. But it's also in a lot of products that you don't think about. They obviously sodas because of the high fructose corn syrup, which is more derived from GMO corn. So maltodextrin, not so much on that end right there. But and you look at hamburgers and stuff like that, and the as a filler, it could be used, and the actual meat, especially processed meats, companies like to use them in there. But these aren't exclusive or limited list here. I mean, the list is really long. I did a whole other video on common products that maltodextrin is in. So the main problems is the pesticide or herbicide residue on the corn, which is then overly processed into maltodextrin, and then the fact that it's almost everywhere makes it a big issue too, because it's really hard to avoid. Unless you just are educated and know, and my alternative is tapioca maltodextrin because it's derived from tapioca, but that's not commonly used in products or supplements because it's more expensive, or it's not as commonly used or subsidized, and that's a whole other issue. But if you're making stuff yourself, then a tapioca maltodextrin is going to be better. If not, I would just try to avoid maltodextrin and natural flavors altogether. All right, so that concludes everything. Next steps are to subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch my other videos, the next video, to really just get a feel for maltodextrin, GMOs, and how you can have natural alternatives without any pesticide or herbicide residue on them.
So when it comes to maltodextrin dangers or genetically modified foods, the biggest thing to keep in mind is number one, we don't know fully the long-term effects of GMOs, but what we do know is the effects of herbicides and pesticides with regards to how that affects our health, and they are toxic for our health and no bueno. How many people do you know would like to take a sip or even put a very small amount of glyphosate, Roundup Ready, or some of these, pesticides on a spoon and drink it or consume it? Nobody that I know, right? But yet we have it on our food, especially corn, soybeans, or cotton when it comes to clothing, and we put that on our skin, which is our largest organ for absorption. And that includes a lot of other things too when you look at cotton and it being GMO as well, with regards to the dyes and the colors and all the chemicals used to process the clothes. So when it comes to toxic chemicals, that we do know the effect on the body, which is not good. And then, we look at how much this stuff is in everything. And the biggest thing is you vote with your dollar. And so looking at organic, non-GMO sources of your food and even your clothing is something to definitely do more research on, and vote with your dollar in that area, and really support local farmers who are focused on sustainable, organic, natural forms of raising crops. That's really the best solution long term for not only the environment and your health, but the biology of everything that exists. Because some people who are like, why are you demonizing GMOs, Lance? Well, let's look at one of the biggest bodies of knowledge when it comes to science, which is biology, which is the study of life. And none of those toxic chemicals that the GMOs are being bred for, none of those toxic chemicals benefit biology. They actually cause a lot of toxicity and are designed to kill things. And so that is something to consider on the flip side when you're looking to gain perspective. All right, well, that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click the subscribe button so you can watch more videos like this one, or click one of the links in the description box below so you can continue to get your learn on.